Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the 2020 podcast, Canada's #1 optometry podcast. I am your host, Dr. Harbir Sian. As always, I am eternally grateful. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to support, to listen, to learn, and to grow, to share, to do all the things that you've done that have helped the podcast to continue to grow and to reach more of our colleagues, so we can continue to support our profession. And as always, of course, once I say thank you, I always ask a big favor right after, which is if you get any value out of this, please do share it. Send a link to a friend, put a screenshot up on Instagram, whatever you do, put it on LinkedIn, let people know that you're listening. This is going to be an Eye2Eye episode. If you're a longtime listener of the podcast, you know Eye2Eye episodes are, it's just me and you, just the two of us having a conversation, and usually me sharing some thoughts and things that I've learned or experiences that I've had. And to be honest, Eye2Eye episodes are an opportunity for me to be, I guess, without using too much of a catchphrase or a cliche, a little bit vulnerable with you guys as well, because this is where I get to kind of share some ideas that maybe I don't have fully formed yet, but I want to let you know that I'm thinking, and perhaps, you might be having a similar thought, and it might help you formulate that thought a little bit more for yourself and help you in your personal or your professional life. So here we go. Today's Eye2Eye episode is regarding my trip to India. So if you have been following me on social media, then you know that I recently just got back from, honestly, what was an epic adventure with our family in India. We were there for 3 weeks. It was a massive adventure. We had over 20 people from Vancouver go to India, and we traveled around together for 3 weeks. It was incredible. It was really amazing. Out of those 3 weeks, we spent the majority, about 2 weeks of it, in Punjab, which is the state where my parents were born and where they grew up. It's where my in-laws are from. So it's really where a lot of Punjabis, as you can tell from the name Punjab, it's where a lot of Punjabis are from. And so this was my very, very first time ever going back to India. Never, ever been in my life before. This was the first time. Of course, it was the first time for our kids, but my wife had been back, I don't know, a dozen or so times throughout her life. She's gone back many times before. But honestly, I was very hesitant to go. And that was our family was the last family to join in on this big adventure, very last minute. But ultimately, I'm truly, truly grateful we did. We had an amazing time, and we developed some incredible core memories just for our immediate family unit, but also with our extended family that was there on this trip together. And what I want to share with you today are a few lessons that I learned, or perhaps that I'm still processing, I think is maybe even a better way of putting it, from this trip. So there's a couple things that I think are kind of hard. I can just say, man, I had this appreciation for this. I learned this lesson, full stop. But I think the core message that I want to share with you is definitely something that's going to be an ongoing process for me, and I'm guessing is a bit of an ongoing process for some of you who are listening as well. So if I was going to wrap it up into three lessons, they are gratitude, which, to be honest, I think we probably should be expressing daily anyways, but gratitude, a heightened sense of gratitude, we can say. The importance of being present. And then the third one, which is the one we're probably going to spend the most time on, and I'm still working on, is the sense of enough, having enough, being enough. And I think that's a really important one in our lives, this hustle and bustle that we have on a day-to-day basis. I think we lose this sense of enoughness for ourselves. So I want to share a few of those thoughts with you. These Eye2Eye episodes, if you listen, they're not that long. I'm going to maybe have you here about 15 minutes. So stick with me. And like I said, at the end, or even if you're in the middle of this episode and you say, you know what, I really got to say something to Harbir, pause it, shoot me a DM. If you got my number, send me a text, whatever you do, however you want to communicate with me, send me that message, and I'd love to know where you're at and what you're thinking. So let's start with gratitude. I mean, this one's an easy one. There was a really deep sense of gratitude in a few different ways. Like, I joked about this. I posted this on social media about me being back to work after a few weeks, and gratitude was the biggest sense feeling that I had at that moment. And one was honestly just gratitude for where we live. It's such an obvious thing. Clean house, clean neighborhood, drinking water, sanitation standards in general, good plumbing. Honestly, good plumbing, very important. When you go to India and you go to other developing parts of the world, you realize plumbing is not something you take for granted. So those are some obvious ones. Being able to drink the tap water coming home is very nice. Um, but the bigger sense of gratitude was really for um, our forefathers, our ancestors, even my own parents. I can't remember how we state this. I'm first generation or second generation. My parents moved from India when they were in their late teens or so. So I think that makes me first generation, not Indian, right? I was born in England, but you can call it whatever you want to call it. But I got to go back and visit the house that my dad grew up in, was born in and grew up in. And right now it's kind of rubble. It's just broken down. There's a structure there. It's almost like going to Rome and looking at, or Pompeii. If you've been to, any of these places where they have ancient societies, it's kind of like going there and seeing the ruins and the leftovers of certain structures. You just see stones. You can see the general structure of a room or two. And really, my dad had six brothers, actually eight, two who passed away when they were very, very young. And they all lived essentially in like one or two rooms in this small structure. And then we got to see the newer house, which was built by my grandfather about 20 years or so, which looks a lot more modern and has some of our kind of Western standards that we'd look for. But walking through these little dirt roads and the little alleys, or galiyan as they call them in Punjab, and seeing this is where they grew up and this is where they lived, and this is the experience they had. This is where they went and played. This is the school that they went to. Really gave me this incredible sense of appreciation for where we are now, and what my granddad had to do, what my dad had to do, and my uncles had to do when they left the country, and learning a new language. And then my parents left England to come to Canada when they were in their late 30s or 40 or so. Just thinking about myself, if I was to have to move now to a new country, what that would be like with the kids. So really appreciating everything we have today is thanks to everything that was done by all of these people before us. We always use this sort of this phrase of, we stand on the shoulders of the people who come before us. So we always have to be grateful, because we wouldn't be able to reach whatever heights we're reaching now without them. So there was that really deep sense of gratitude that I certainly had there. So that was number one. That was number one thing I wanted to share with you, was the gratitude that I have. And really, I want to try to carry that with me as long as I can. It's a matter of repetition, right? Reminding myself every day that I have this to be grateful for. So I want to ask you, just to end this quick topic, is what are you grateful for? What can you be grateful for? What can you remind yourself every day that you should be grateful for? And how will that impact your day, each day moving forward? The second lesson, again, pretty obvious one, right? But not one it's one that I think I lose track of daily, is the importance of being present. And when we're on this 3-week long trip through India, we did have internet connection for the most part. There were spotty connection points at certain times. We were all on our phones from time to time. We did check our emails from time to time. But what actually forced me to unplug were a couple of things. One was, we traveled a lot of places in a big bus, all of us together, 20 some. There's always conversations happening. I had to always keep my kids occupied, or support in keeping my kids occupied with one thing or another. But the other thing was, there was a big time difference between Vancouver and India. There's a 13.5-hour time difference. So it's always night and day, literally. And so I couldn't be directly connected to work or other things. I always had to, just when I woke up in the morning, I was catching up on whatever happened yesterday in Vancouver, and I caught up, and then that was it. I was no longer going to be able to have any direct communication with anybody. So I put my phone away. I didn't even think about getting on Instagram or WhatsApp or whatever channels to connect with work. I just kind of went along with the day. And the few of us who had businesses or who had other work-related things to stay in touch on, we would take a short period of time through the day. Let me just connect. Let me take an hour to get this bit of work done, whether it's in the hotel room or wherever. And then we're on our way. We're going through the day, and we don't really think about it anymore. And that really, as usual, if you've been through this process, initially feels a little uncomfortable. The first couple of days are like, oh my God, I gotta check this, I gotta check that, I gotta post, or I gotta whatever. It takes a few days. And after a few days, you forget. You just kind of get used to your new normal, which is, all right, we're on the move, or we're going to go see this temple, or we're going to go see this person's house. We're going to go see this important monument. We got to just get in the habit of doing that. And that's a pretty special thing. And we were very fortunate to be able to do all of those things. And it gave us the opportunity to unplug. And really, I almost was nervous coming back, and for the sense of having to re-plug in, because that feeling of just freedom from our standard kind of hustle and bustle and being connected and having to post and wanting to read this article or that thing, it was gone. And it was really just like, who's right in front of me right now? What is right in front of me right now? And how can I enjoy that moment? And I just really got to appreciate how valuable that really was. And I just want to leave you, the thought I want to leave you with there is, if there's some way you can create that for yourself, where you can unplug, where you can kind of forget the day-to-day grind for a little while without maybe having to travel halfway around the world. If you can create that for yourself, I can tell you that it's truly, truly valuable. And again, that's something that I'm going to try to hang on to as much as I can, try to remind myself of the importance of being present. And again, like formulating these thoughts right here in real time with you, I think probably I'm thinking the best way to do that is probably through meditation and taking the time to sit and be present. And then, of course, coming home from work, putting my phone away, just taking the time to be right there one-on-one with my family. These are ways that I'm trying to formulate how I can stay present now moving forward. Now, if you have ideas, if there's ways that you've learned to stay present and unplug from time to time, please let me know. If there's some sort of detox, digital detox that you do or something, give me a shout. Let me know what's worked for you, because I would love to be able to stay in that mindset as long as possible. So the third lesson that I want to share with you, and again, I hesitate to use the word lesson because these are they're ongoing lessons. They're ideas that are formulating in my mind still. I'm trying to digest. This is the biggest one for me, and this is the one that's going to require the most effort for me moving forward. And that is the idea of having enough, being enough, just this idea of enoughness in general. The funny thing is I got back from, we stopped through England on the way home from India, but we got back. I had 2 days at work. Quick, bang, bang, Monday, Tuesday, I'm in the office, I'm seeing patients, I'm making sure things are on track. And then I leave for Orlando. I fly to Orlando, and like all the ideas of being peaceful and maybe having enough and not chasing and not grinding and not hustling all go out the window, the airplane window for a fact, at 30,000 feet, those are gone instantly, because I land in Orlando and guess what? The hustle and bustle of the conference, and I'm seeing all my friends who are doing amazing things and recording videos and podcast episodes and social media content and talking about dollars and cents and revenue and bottom lines and all these things. And all of a sudden, all those things come flooding back, right? So immediately I'm challenging myself to stay in the moment and try to think about how much I have and whether it's enough and whether all this extra hustle is worth it, or what is it doing for me. And I know for a fact that there's many of us who feel the same way or have these thoughts going through our minds as well. But I think many of us are struggling with this push and pull of, I do feel like I have enough, but I think I need more. I need my business to do better, but I think my business is doing pretty well. But then I see someone else is doing better. Then I feel like I need to do better. And then I see someone bought a new watch. I want a better watch. It can go on and on. We know this can go on and on forever. And a lot of the thoughts I'm sharing, to be, again, going back to what I said in the beginning, without being cliche, I'm being vulnerable with you, open with you guys here, is thoughts that I have in my mind daily, right? So we're walking around in India. And the first thing is, you go to India and it hits you like a ton of bricks. Like, to be very transparent, the smell, okay, is one thing. You're still in the airport, there's a smell. You step out of the airport, there's the same smell, it's just stronger. But you see immediately poverty, right? If you've been to any developing part of the world, I've been grateful, very, very fortunate to be able to travel to multiple different parts of the world for one-site missions, these eye hospital missions, doing eye exams in different places. We went to a very remote area in Colombia where it was, a very poor village where they barely had running water and things like that, which reminded me a lot of certain parts of India I went to in the villages where we were. I had the opportunity to go to Jordan in the Middle East, and we traveled like an hour, 2 hours out of Amman into a very kind of deserted or very small village type area, which again reminded me a lot of certain villages that we drove through in India. And we got to see, what it looked like for people who were growing up in those areas. And you see the poverty, you see the lack of a lot of the luxuries that we have here in Canada or any other, Western or developed parts of the world. And that really gives you some perspective immediately. But what I saw in Colombia, what I saw in Jordan, what I saw in India is these people don't know any better for the most part, and they're just enjoying their lives. Right. I remember in Colombia, we're in this little soccer stadium type thing doing eye exams for hundreds and hundreds of people a day. And you come in, you see they're waiting in line for hours and hours to get an eye exam. You could tell the clothes are older, and they have less of everything that we have here. But I walk out, and what do I see? I see kids just laughing and playing and kicking a soccer ball around and just enjoying themselves. Right. And this is something that I was seeing again, I saw in Amman, excuse me, in Jordan. And I saw again in India. They're sitting, older people are sitting around in a circle. They're drinking tea. They're just having a conversation. There's a huge sense of community. They know where their neighbors are. We went into these villages. There's very few road signs and maps and things like that. So you just drive into a village and you say, hey, where does this so-and-so person live with this last name? And they say, oh, yeah. Drive down here. You'll see a thing. You take a left. You see a thing. You make a right. It's the house with this thing on the front. They all know each other. They all know where each other live. They all know who to go to for certain things. The sense of community was incredible. And it just made me wonder, like, do these people sit here and wish they had more? Do they wish they had a nicer watch or a nicer car, or that they had a bigger business? Or do they feel satisfied with where they are because they have everything they need? They are producing enough. They are generating enough to survive, to thrive, to have a happy family relationship and a good sense of community. And so it really makes you kind of wonder what we're chasing here. Are we chasing the right things? Could we have this feeling of enoughness and fulfillment right here in this moment today, without having to get any more? So it's more of a open-ended question. As I said, I don't have the answer for you. But while I was walking around in India, and multiple times through our trip in India, I actually talked to my cousins about this over and over, about this story, this parable of the fisherman, the businessman who visits a fishing village and has a conversation with a fisherman. You've probably heard this before, but I wanted to share with you again. But this is certainly definitely something that really, really I kept coming back to my mind while I was in India. And then now, it's obviously at the forefront of my mind while I'm back here in Canada now. So I'm going to read it to you. I have it printed here. Okay, a wealthy businessman is vacationing in a small coastal village. One afternoon, he sees a fisherman come in on a small boat with just a few fish. The businessman's impressed. He asks, wow, those are great fish. How long did it take you to catch them? The fisherman replied, not very long. The businessman asked, why don't you go out longer and catch more fish? The fisherman smiles and says, this is enough to feed my family. Curious, the businessman asked, so what do you do the rest of your day? The fisherman says, I sleep in, I fish a little, play with my kids, take a siesta with my wife, and in the evenings I sit with my friends, I drink wine, I play guitar, and I enjoy my life. The businessman laughs. He says, I have an MBA. I can help you. You should spend more time fishing. Then you can buy a bigger boat, several boats. Then you can build a fleet. You'll make more money, open your own company, maybe even go public one day. The fisherman asks, how long will that take? The businessman says, 15 to 20 years. And then the fisherman asks, and then what? And then the businessman smiles. He says, then you can retire, move to a small coastal village, sleep in, fish a little, spend time with your family, take naps, and enjoy evenings with your friends. So it's ironic, of course. We're chasing this thing. We want peace. We want freedom. And we think if we keep climbing and we keep growing and we keep pushing, we'll get the freedom, we'll get the peace, we'll get the tranquility at the end. But it turns out that we can actually create that for ourselves. Of course, that would require changes in our certain patterns of living, but I believe it's available to us now. So will this make me change exactly how I live? Will it stop me from trying to push forward and grow my business or other things? I can't say yes for sure, but it's certainly making me think more about it. And I think it's something that all of us should be thinking about is, do we have enough? When would we have enough? What would it look like? Do we want that feeling of enoughness? The other thing is, like, we're so busy trying to build this life that we want to enjoy, but I really think that we could enjoy the life we are building. You know what I mean? As we've heard many, many, many times, it's one of the most famous cliches is that it's about enjoying the journey, not the destination. It's really about enjoying those sweet moments that we have along the way. And maybe that helps us feel like we have enough while we're still moving forward. But in any case, I wanted to share those thoughts with you because they're at the forefront of my mind. And I know that these thoughts are on other people's minds, my friends. We've had these discussions, my colleagues. So I thought if I put this out there, perhaps it'll help you think a little differently, maybe act a little differently. And either way, I hope it helps you to just have a better personal life and helps you some way in your career. Ultimately, as I said, I wanted to tell you the 3 core things that I learned that I think are going to change, I hope are going to change how I live moving forward. And that is, number 1, this heightened sense of gratitude. Number 2, relearning the importance of being present. And number 3, really trying to think deeply about what is enough. Am I enough? When will I ever feel like I have that fulfillment? What would that take? And hoping that I achieve that fulfillment instead of some glamorous achievement or some trophy in some form in my career. So I hope that helped you in some way. Thank you guys for always sticking with me through these Eye2Eye episodes. Thank you so much, as always, for supporting the podcast. Thank you always for listening and watching the 2020 podcast, Canada's #1 optometry podcast. I'll see you guys in the next episode.